You looked at your plate this morning and felt good about it. Vegetables, color. You thought, at least I am doing something right. And that is exactly where the problem quietly begins. A vegetable can be healthy for your heart and still be the wrong fit for your kidneys after 60. Not because vegetables are bad, but because after 60, kidneys filter more slowly, and certain vegetables carry potassium and mineral loads that build up in the blood before you feel a thing. You do not feel elevated potassium. Your doctor sees it on a lab sheet, often after it has been building for months. I am Grace Wells, kidney and diabetes health educator for older adults. Today, we are going through 5 vegetables that many seniors eat every single week. Foods sitting in your kitchen right now that can put quiet pressure on kidney function when potassium is already a concern. Stay with me. Because the last one on this list is the one most people get completely wrong. It looks like the healthiest thing in the room. Let us get straight into it. Potatoes. If there is one food that belongs in nearly every senior kitchen in America, Canada, the UK, and Australia, it is the potato, mashed with dinner, roasted on a Sunday, in a soup, on the side, as a comfort food that has been part of the weekly rhythm for decades. And for many people, potatoes are absolutely fine. But for seniors managing kidney function or watching potassium, potatoes carry a load that is easy to underestimate. A medium baked potato with the skin on can carry around 900 milligrams of potassium. In the context of kidney health after 60, that is a significant amount in a single serving. And most people do not eat a small potato. They eat a full one, sometimes 2, sometimes with something else on the side that also carries potassium. And suddenly, the potassium for an entire day is sitting in one meal. The skin is where most of that potassium lives. One preparation method that renal dietitians sometimes recommend is called leaching, peeling and cutting the potato into small pieces, soaking in water for several hours, draining, rinsing, then cooking. Research suggests this can reduce potassium content meaningfully, though it does not remove it entirely. But here is the nuance. If your kidney labs are stable, your potassium has not been flagged, and your doctor has not specifically told you to restrict it, then a portion of potato is not automatically a problem. Portion size, preparation, and the rest of the meal all matter. The problem comes when potatoes become a daily habit in large portions alongside other high potassium foods, and no one has ever reviewed the cumulative effect with your labs. That is the pattern worth breaking. Now let us talk about tomatoes, because this is where a lot of seniors get caught off guard. A single raw tomato sits around 290 to 300 milligrams of potassium. For most people, that is manageable, but the way most seniors actually eat tomatoes is not as a single raw slice. It is as tomato sauce, tomato paste, canned tomatoes in soup or stew, sun-dried tomatoes, tomato juice. And here is what changes everything: concentration. When tomatoes cook down into a sauce, the water evaporates but the potassium stays. Half a cup of tomato sauce can carry 2 to 3 times the potassium of a fresh tomato. A tablespoon of tomato paste is even more concentrated. If you are eating a bowl of pasta with tomato sauce, a side of something already high in potassium, and then a glass of tomato juice because someone told you it was healthy, you are stacking potassium across that one meal without realizing it. This is not about avoiding tomatoes forever. For many seniors with stable labs, a small amount of tomato in a meal is perfectly reasonable. But if your doctor has mentioned elevated potassium, or if you are managing reduced kidney function, tomato-heavy meals, especially the concentrated versions, are worth paying attention to. I also want to mention something easy to overlook. Tomato-based meals often come with other high potassium ingredients. The sauce has garlic and onion. The soup has potatoes and tomatoes together. The chili has beans, tomatoes, and seasoning blends. When you combine those ingredients regularly, the potassium accumulates across the meal, not just within any single food. If you are already thinking about what is in your own pantry, that response is exactly why videos like this matter. Your kitchen is where kidney health is actually decided, long before any lab comes back. And now we get to the one that surprises people most. Spinach. Spinach is practically a symbol of healthy eating. It is dark green, full of iron, and people have been told to eat more of it for years. So when I tell seniors that spinach is one of the vegetables that may need more careful attention when kidney function is a concern after 60, the first response is almost always the same. But I thought spinach was good for me. The answer is yes, and also it depends. Spinach is high in potassium. Raw spinach has a moderate amount, but the moment you cook it, it compresses dramatically. A cup of raw spinach becomes just a few tablespoons once it is wilted in a pan, and those few tablespoons carry the potassium of the full cup. People underestimate it because the volume shrinks so much on the plate. But potassium is not the only reason spinach gets flagged in kidney health conversations. Spinach is also high in oxalates, natural compounds found in certain plant foods. In the kidneys, oxalates combine with calcium and form crystals, which are one of the most common types of kidney stones. For seniors who have had kidney stones or who may already have reduced filtering capacity, a regular habit of large amounts of cooked spinach may be worth a conversation with your doctor. This does not mean a small handful of spinach in a salad is dangerous. For many seniors with stable kidney labs, a moderate amount is fine. But the person blending a daily green smoothie with 2 large handfuls of raw spinach, a banana, and yogurt, they may be adding more potassium and oxalates in a single morning drink than they realize. And the smoothie feels so healthy. That is the part that makes it complicated. Let me pause here because I want to give you a frame for everything we are discussing. The goal is never to take food away. The goal is to understand your specific context, your labs, your kidney function, your potassium level, and then make choices based on that picture, not someone else's picture. Yours. A food that is fine for your neighbor may need to be portioned more carefully for you. A food that was perfectly fine for you at 50 may need a second look now that your kidneys are filtering a little differently. That is not a tragedy. It is information. And information is what most seniors are not given early enough. If you have never specifically asked your doctor about your potassium and phosphorus levels, not just your general health, but specifically those 2 minerals, that is a conversation worth having at your next visit, especially after 60, especially if you have blood pressure, diabetes, or any family history of kidney concerns. These levels are routinely checked in standard blood work, but they are not always explained in detail unless you ask. Ask. You have every right to understand what your labs say. Now, the next one gets especially popular in autumn, but if you are managing kidney labs, it is worth knowing what it carries. Squash and pumpkin, butternut squash, acorn squash, pumpkin, genuinely nutritious, warm, comforting, and perfectly appropriate for many seniors. But they are also meaningfully high in potassium. A cup of cooked butternut squash carries around 580 milligrams of potassium. Pumpkin sits in a similar range. For a senior whose doctor has recommended limiting daily potassium, 1 cup of squash can represent a significant portion of that day's allowance. The issue is not squash by itself. The issue is how quickly potassium accumulates when squash is combined with other foods at the same meal. Squash soup alongside a small potato, pumpkin in a casserole with tomatoes, a warm autumn bowl with squash, greens, and something else that also carries potassium. The individual items each seem fine. The combined total is what adds pressure. Portion awareness is the most practical tool here. A smaller serving, half a cup rather than a full cup, can make a meaningful difference if potassium is something you are watching. Your doctor or renal dietitian can help you understand what a realistic portion looks like given your specific labs. And now we arrive at the fifth vegetable, the one I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Avocado. Let me say this carefully. Avocado has a very well-earned reputation in many health communities. The fat in avocado is genuinely heart healthy. It is used in anti-inflammatory diets, Mediterranean-style eating, and is frequently recommended by doctors and dietitians for a wide range of health goals. None of that is wrong. But when it comes to kidney health after 60, avocado carries one of the highest potassium concentrations of any food most seniors eat regularly. A single medium avocado can contain over 900 milligrams of potassium. And most people do not eat half an avocado, they eat a whole one. On toast, in a salad, mixed into a bowl, spread across a wrap. It feels light, it feels clean. It does not feel like a high potassium food because nobody has ever framed it that way. But for a senior who has been told to watch potassium because their kidneys are filtering more slowly, eating a whole avocado daily could represent nearly half of an entire day's recommended potassium allowance in a single food. This is the part that surprises most people, because avocado has been marketed so consistently as a health food that the idea of it needing a second look for kidney health feels counterintuitive. And I want to be precise. If your potassium levels are normal, your kidney function is stable, and your doctor has not told you to restrict potassium, then avocado in reasonable amounts is likely not a problem for you. This is not a blanket warning. This is a context-specific one. But if elevated potassium or reduced kidney function is part of your health picture, and many seniors find out it is, often later than they should have, then the daily avocado that felt like such a healthy habit deserves a conversation with your care team. The pattern I see most often is this. A senior is eating well, really genuinely trying. Spinach in the morning smoothie, avocado on toast, tomato sauce at dinner, potatoes a few nights a week, squash soup on Sunday. Each individual choice looks responsible from a general health standpoint. But cumulatively, for a person whose kidneys are managing potassium less efficiently, that daily routine may be adding quiet, invisible pressure. That is the gap this video is trying to close. Here is one practical question I want you to take into your next doctor's appointment. For any vegetable you eat regularly, ask, should I limit this, portion it more carefully, prepare it differently, swap it, or keep it as it is, based on my current labs? That single question, asked about each of the foods we talked about today, will give you more useful guidance than any general video can. Because the answer depends on your specific kidney function, your potassium level, your phosphorus, and what your doctor already knows about your health picture. Your labs decide the context, not a YouTube video. But a YouTube video can give you the vocabulary and the questions to walk into that appointment ready, rather than confused. Here is what to take from today. These 5 vegetables, potatoes, concentrated tomatoes, spinach, squash and pumpkin, and avocado, are not automatically harmful. They are nutritious foods with real health benefits. But they all carry meaningful amounts of potassium, and in the case of spinach, oxalates as well. After 60, when kidneys naturally filter more slowly, the cumulative effect of eating these foods together, regularly, in larger portions, can add quiet stress that only shows up later on a lab sheet. The most practical thing you can do today is not to throw anything away. It is to ask yourself, have I ever actually discussed these specific foods with my doctor or a renal dietitian in the context of my current kidney labs? Not a general conversation about vegetables. A specific one about these foods and these numbers. If the answer is no, that conversation is worth having. And one step you can take before that appointment. Write down what you eat in a typical week, not a perfect food diary, just enough to show your doctor what is regular for you, the foods that repeat, the portions that are habits, That information is genuinely useful for someone trying to advise you. A note before we close: everything in this video is educational information. It is not a diagnosis, not personal medical advice, and not a substitute for guidance from your own doctor or renal dietitian. Potassium, phosphorus, and protein management in kidney health vary significantly depending on your stage of kidney function, your blood pressure, your diabetes status, your medications, and your specific lab results. Please speak with your doctor before making significant dietary changes based on anything you have heard here. If even one thing in this video gave you a clearer question to bring to your next appointment, then it did its job. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 5 vegetables do you eat most often? Potatoes, tomatoes, spinach, squash, or avocado? Or is there another food you have been eating regularly and quietly wondering about? Leave it in the comments below. Your answer may help another senior realize they are not alone in asking the same question. If this is the kind of kidney health guidance you wish someone had explained earlier, before something showed up on a lab, this channel is here to do exactly that. You may want to stay close. Tomorrow, we are talking about nuts. 4 that tend to fit more comfortably for many seniors watching kidney health, and 2 that can shift from beneficial to risky faster than most people expect. If nuts are part of your daily routine, that video is worth watching before your next handful. I will see you there.